Morning, Ken.
Morning, Jason.
Do you, now that the trade freeze is over, A, do you have any trade in the books? And B, any update on potential buyouts?
No trades in the books. Potential buyouts, probably will do one.
Okay. Looking at the draft tomorrow, Ken, there's the two goalies. Maybe they'll be available there. When you look at your organizational depth, and you've got lots of really good young defensemen, is it safe to say you'll take a forward, or does the best player available still stand out? Or how much better would a defenseman have to be to take one at 19?
I would say that we're probably won't draft a defenseman. Probably. You never know if somebody. You do your ratings, Jason. Our scouts have been in here. I mean, they've been at it now for the last month with Zoom calls. They've been here all week. Tyler Wright, Bob Green, and Jim Cross and Mitch Holmgren. But been talking to our guys in Europe. We've got our overall list from 1 to the first round. If a defenseman that's high up on our board slides to 19, we'll probably take him. But I think if things go the way that we think they're going to go, I see us probably taking a forward. But again, you never know. I mean, if we got a defenseman at 18 and we're picking 19, and probably lean towards a forward. Obviously, we're going to take the best player available. Certainly, with having Bouchard and Broberg, Samorukov, and there's some other young defensemen, and we got some younger defensemen on our team. It would make us lean towards forwards, but we'll see.
This meeting is being recorded.
Next question, Reed Wilkins, 630 Chad.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, Ken. I'm wondering if you could sort of characterize how negotiations went with Adam Larsson, and if he ultimately gave you any reason or reasons about why he chose Seattle.
We started in the middle of January, so about the middle of February, I reached out to his agent, JP Barry, told him that I would like to sign him. We talked somewhere on the road trip. I remember sitting down with Adam for an hour. I don't know, maybe it was one night in Calgary. Told him that we wanted to sign him, wanted him back. Like all negotiations, looked at what the marketplace was for the type of player that he is. The recent contracts. And there was probably, 10 or 12. I made an offer probably in March. Talked through April. JP and I kind of talked. Then sometime probably in April, JP and Adam told me that they would like to shut it down until the end of the season, and then we picked up. I thought we were very close to a deal. Certainly that was the indication that J.P. Barry gave me a month ago. And then sort of time went by, and I asked, J.P. where things were at, and he said that, Adam just wanted to really be sure of his decision. Really wanted to know what his options were, and J.P. told him that he wouldn't really know his options until the 28th of July. Then I made 3 or 4 or 5 different offers through July, I guess, through June and July, and then I added a year, and ultimately about a week ago I went to J.P. Barry and said that if Adam needed an opportunity to explore the market, I gave him the green light to, and sent him an email giving him the green light to talk to other teams so that he could know what his options were, in the hopes that he would find that his best option was in Edmonton. And then obviously woke up to a text, early yesterday morning from J.P. Barry saying that the night before Adam had decided and agreed to a deal with Seattle.
My other question would be, is there any update on what's going on with Mike Smith? Thank you.
Mike Smith's, we finalized this morning a 2-year deal. I texted with Mike this morning, so it'll be signed today and will be officially announced. But we've got a 2-year deal with Mike Smith.
Jim Matheson, Post Media.
Ken, you've got lots of holes to fill. I presume you were not figuring one hole to fill would be right shot, shut down defenseman. So how difficult is that going to be to find a defenseman of Adam's, traits? I guess either as a trade or as a free agent signing.
Well, I mean, obviously Adam was an important part of our team on and off the ice. So important players are hard to replace if you don't have them internally. Obviously, when you go to the marketplace, there's 32 teams looking for players. So, I mean, I don't have an answer for you because maybe I'll have an answer for you a week from now after we go through free agency. But certainly, we know that we've got to find a defenseman that can fill that hole.
And how are things going with Zach Hyman with his visit to Edmonton? And do you think your chances are good that you can work out some sort of deal to bring Zach Hyman to the others?
Obviously Zach Hyman has been given permission from Toronto to, talk to whoever he wants to talk to. So it's only the agents can handicap things. Certainly he's a player we're very interested in. Other than that, it's hard to. I don't really have it's hard to answer that question for me. Sorry.
Ryan Rashog, TSN.
Hey, Ken. Just wanted to ask you about sort of a strategy in free agency here, and as it pertains to kind of the flat cap. Is term something that at this point you've been willing to put on the table to keep the numbers down on some of these salaries, and does that allow you to maybe put a better team on the ice in the here and now? Is that a strategy you feel you need to be deploying? As it sounds like, pretty much a year.
The answer would be yes. I think I said that, when we had the press conference announcing, the extension to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Obviously, Ryan went from a cap number of 6 to 5.1. When you're 28 years of age and, prime of your career, not too often the players have their cap numbers go down. So in return to get a reduced cap number, I went to the max length of 8 years. So, I think, I'm trying to, and I've been here for 2 years, and I don't know how many times I've been asked by the media, do I feel pressure that, obviously we've got, some great young players that, to try to win. And I think the answer has always been yes. And, the last couple of years when I came here, we didn't have a lot of cap space. We obviously filled a lot of holes with players making $1 million a year. We've got more cap space now, so I'm going to try to maximize that cap space. And if term, on those players that I think are going to be important to this team, would I give term to get a cap number that we like? That's something that I would consider. I think that Connor's 24, Leon's 25, Darnell's 26, Nuge's 28. I've got a core group. There's other players in there, but I've got a core group of players that we're in the prime now, and I've got to try to don't want to put players on the team thinking they're going to be good 2 and 3 years from now. It's got to be about trying to be the best that we can be on an every night, on an every year basis.
And just a question, on overall strategy and aggressiveness. I mean, clearly in free agency here, you're going hunting for some bigger game. If you land a forward in that, $5+ million range, do you have room to be big game hunting on the blue line as well? Or do you hit a limit here with cap space where if you land the forward that you maybe think you could, you got to be a little bit more conservative on the blue line? And then, the extension of that question is, if your first round pick under any circumstances would be in play this year?
Well, the first round pick won't be in play on a rental. I guess more so on a hockey trade, would it be? Yes. But I don't see us using it in a rental. Ryan, part of being my feeling is part of being good in a cap world is you need younger players, cheaper players. That's a part of the puzzle. So that's certainly what these first round picks and young prospects do. They give you maybe not today, but next year at some point in time, that's a part of the solution. So would I trade our first round pick between tonight and tomorrow night? I guess if there was a deal there that I thought made sense, yeah. Today, right now, I've got nothing going with our first round pick. So I'm not sure if that answers it. So would I trade the first round pick? Yeah, but I don't see it just for a little to have a little excitement for a short period of time.
Tim Campbell, NHL.com.
Ken, we hear a lot of general managers talking at this time of year about filling holes and that they have needs. How much do you believe your holes and your needs can be or need to be filled from within? People like Bear and Broberg and Bouchard and Yamamoto and maybe Puljujarvi, those kinds of things. How much of that need can be filled from within?
Well, that has to be a part of this equation. It has to be that either one of two things: either some young players on your roster take a step. Yamamoto, Puljujarvi, Bear, Bouchard, McLeod. I'm just trying to think of the young players that finished the year on our team. That has to be a part of the equation, that they take a little bit of a step, and then or that you've got, we get a surprise by Broberg, Holloway, Samorukov, just trying to, that all of a sudden they come in, and Ethan Bear was a nice surprise 2 years ago. He made our team out of training camp. Ryan McLeod obviously played so good in Bakersfield. The thought was that I was going to leave him there all year. He played so good, we brought him up for the last 10 games. So that has to be a part of the equation. If that's not a part of the equation, then it gets to be much more difficult.
Gene Principe, Sportsnet.
Ken, I know it's very hard to predict what sometimes is the craziest day of the hockey season, usually July 1st, this year July 28th. If you kind of had a crystal ball, how would you sort of foresee that day going in regards to it being sort of a winning day and a really good day for their organization?
Well, obviously, Tyson Barrie's an unrestricted free agent. I am in communication with Pat Brisson. I had an offer on the table for Adam Larsson. Those two right shot defensemen last year probably played. Did they play 40 minutes a night? I mean, they must have been close to 20 minutes each. Our expectations are that Evan Bouchard's going to be in there every night, and be an everyday player. So maybe he can take a little some of that. So certainly I need to sign. I have to do something on defense. I've just talked about Barrie and obviously we had Kulikov at the end of the year. You think about, Kulikov's unrestricted, Barrie's unrestricted, Larsson's now gone to Seattle. So I do know that between now and training camp, I need to make an addition or two on the back end. And then, I had lots of the bottom part of the roster forwards that were on one-year deals. Told many of them that I won't re-sign them, so I'm going to go to market and, try to find some players that, much like we've done the last 2 years, that are going to be, we bottom part of the roster players, forwards that are going to be, lower salaried players. Everybody's got that. That's a part of the equation. So what would be successful if I can obviously fill out our defense and feel good about our defense, fill out sort of the bottom part of our forward roster spot, maybe get a top six forward. That's probably what we're looking for or to accomplish.
Thank you.
Jason Gregor, TSN 1260.
Ken, you mentioned some guys you're going to go to market. Have you made a decision? Is that your RFAs? I think you have till Monday to qualify them. Guys like Cahoon and Kara, are you planning to qualify them or let them test free agents or offer them another contract?
Probably will not offer QOs.
To those two?
Yeah.
Okay. And when the draft and trades, Ken, you've been involved in a long time. There seems to be more trades usually heading into the draft or around the draft on day 2. Do you expect that to be the same? And has it heightened or increased the conversations because of the expansion draft?
I think the opposite's happened. Certainly from my, I wasn't, I didn't have a lot of, basically with Seattle, we submitted our protected list. I did talk to Ron Francis a couple of times, 2-3 times prior to we submitted our list, and then I talked to him a couple of times over the last 3 days. I have talked to some teams. When I leave this call, I'll go check around. I'm with you. Usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday is when sort of the off-season trading happens. So we'll see what happens. I would think that today probably teams are starting to reach out and have communication. We'll see where it leads to. That's what I'm going to do is try to talk to a few managers today. I know what I'm looking for. We've had our pro scouting meetings 3 weeks ago. We've gone over the other 30. We didn't go over Seattle, but we went over the other 30 teams, and kind of identified some players if they might be available that we would have interest in talking. So I did have some communication prior to Seattle, and then the last 4 days things have gone quiet. But try again today and see where it leads.
Ryan Rashog, TSN.
Ken, just circling back on on what I mentioned before about the blue line, with Larsson gone and Clefbaum's space there, how aggressive can you be in terms of big game hunting? There are names on the market that could be, $7-8 million. Do you project being able to be in the mix on players at that price point?
We won't be big game hunting on the back end. If you're talking $8 million defenseman, part of what I have to factor in is, obviously Darnell Nurse is an unrestricted free agent. In a flat cap, whether the cap is 81.5 next year or 82.5, I look at the players on our team right now. Ethan Bear is a restricted free agent a year from now. Jesse Puljujarvi is an unrestricted free agent a year from now. Darnell Nurse is an unrestricted free agent a year from now. I just can't go out and spend all this money. The big game hunting is going to be term. It's not only going to be big cap numbers. It's going to be big term. So I have to factor that into whatever decisions. I can't just go to 81.5 and have all that 81.5 tied up in 2022 in the summer of 22, and then I mean, obviously Darnell's at a 5.6 cap number today. Ethan's at a $2 million cap number today. Jesse's at a 1.175 cap number today. You know, you can total those three up. So just internally, I have to make sure that I've got some money set aside, you know, that's going to come off the books as I look towards the summer of 22. So I do not see us doing what if you're calling $7-8 million defenseman big game hunting. We will not be in the big game hunting mode on defense.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. And your third line center position, obviously it's a pretty key spot in your lineup. Is the priority there to land, you know, somebody that's a little bit defensive minded and you're not as concerned about offensive production, or what style of player do you want for that position on this team?
Well, I mean, you know, Ryan, I'd love to have a third line center that can, you know, chip in 10 to 15 goals and get 30 to 40 points and kill a penalty and, you know, be a plus player, you know, play with speed and play with energy, get in on the forecheck. But, you know, that's hockey. That's fantasy hockey material. You know, I got a cap, and if you don't, that's where I'm talking. That comes back to, you know, the question you asked before about trading the first round pick. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, you know, Ryan McLeod and Evan Bouchard and Broberg and Holloway and, you know, Lavoie and some of these players over the next year or 2-3 years kind of grow into some of these things. So, you know, I think that I've got some priorities. Certainly a third line center would be a priority, but I'd like to, you know, we'd love to add a top six forward. Certainly have talked about a third line center. We've talked about signing some defensemen here. So I just got to figure, you know, if I do a buyout, you know, it'll free up some money. And then I'm going to look at how, you know, I know how much money I've got, and then I've got it, but I don't know what some of these players are going to cost. And then you go out and you sign somebody and you take that amount of money off the board or off your own board, and then you look to see what you got left. And ultimately, as I whittle my way through, we'll do the best that we can to try to get somebody here that can play in the third line center spot.
Mark Spector, Sportsnet.
Morning, Ken.
Morning.
Is there some sense, you know, this is the shopping season and you got a lot of competitors out there. You do have a lot of cap space. Are you satisfied with going into the season and still maybe having a box or two unchecked and figuring it out nearer the deadline? Do you have a good enough team that you can go in with some cap space and maybe a position that you haven't filled and try to fill it mid-season?
Well, Mark, here's the problem with that. You're right, but we're going to be an LTI. And I, you know, for those people that don't know how LTI works, Clefbaum's going to be on long-term injury. So unless I include Clef on our, in effect, our roster, you know, and just put him on IR, then, you know, but if we spend, cap's 81.5, Clef's a 4.1 cap number, so let's say we spend, even if you spend $78 million, well, obviously you got to, that does not include Clef, does not, you know, or so now Clef, 78 million plus Clef's 4, you're at 82. Well, we're in LTI, so now once you go into LTI, you've really set your cap at $78 million. So, you know, you got to run your team a little bit different, in my opinion, when you're going into LTI, unless you want to be at 73, 74 million dollars, 75 or 81.5 less the 4. You know, you need a little. You know, that's your cushion. So if you want to run your team at 70. 76, 6, you know, that's 81.5 less the 4.1, unless you want to go, you leave all that money out there for the future. But if you decide you want to spend some of that, even if you want to spend one or two of it, then you're really spending all of it, because you've now preset your cap at a lower number than 81.5. So because we're going to be an LTI, and I make the decision whether we go into LTI. So I see us trying to spend probably as much money as we can in the off season, and try to have somehow figure out to have a way to have a cushion built in on opening day, and then away you go. But if you're in LTI, you do not accrue cap space. If you are not in LTI, you accrue cap space. So in LTI, $1 is worth $1 at the trade deadline. If you're not in LTI, $1 might be worth somewhere between 3 and 4, 3.5 times the value. So because with Clough being on LTI, has to affect a little bit the way I think.
Okay, and speaking of Clefbaum, in the last 2 years, you've lost Clefbaum, who was at that time your number one defenseman, and Adam Larsson, who's the second pairing guy, completely off your roster for nothing in return. I know how you try to build a team and you think ahead. I mean, I know you got the cap space for Larsson, but you don't have a player for him. My point would be this: when you're building your team and you're thinking ahead, and then you lose two really good players like that, what does that do to the plan?
Make a new plan.
Final two questions, Kevin McGran, Toronto Star, and then Jim Matheson.
I know you can't really talk, or you don't really want to talk too much about Zach Hyman, but would your preference be a 7-year deal or an 8-year deal where you get the AAV lower, even if it means perhaps making a deal with the Leafs to work out the 8-year deal? And have you had any indication the Leafs would be open to that?
Well, I mean, first off, I think Zach Hyman has to make his decision. So, and I think, it's all numbers. I mean, and then forget Zach Hyman. I think if your 7-year deal's worth X and your 8-year deal's worth $100,000 less than X, you may as well go with the 7-year deal at X. I think it all depends on numbers. So, the question you pose is, Zach Hyman has to make a decision. He's got to, by next Wednesday, if all of a sudden we get the information that he'd like to sign with us, then I talked to Toronto, to Kyle, what's the cost? So I think we're a long way away from that. But those certainly are all the things that I have to go through in making decisions.
Thanks.
Final question, Jim Matheson, Post Media.
I have two questions, actually. One, have you considered trading for a late round pick for the rights to one of these unrestricteds, as the Rangers did with Goodrow, so that you can negotiate with, I don't know, David Savard or whoever's out there as an unrestricted before July 28th?
Would you be talking, give me some names.
David Savard.
Oh, okay. Oh, from the other teams. I thought you were talking from our teams.
No.
Right now, no.
Okay. And would it make more sense to you? I mean, we've talked often, Ken, about, bidding against other teams in free agency and stuff. Would it make more sense, or have you thought of the idea of maybe just trading for somebody's right shot defenseman, making a trade as opposed to trying to sign somebody?
Yeah, we have, yeah.
And who would that be?
Well, I'm not going to answer that.
Thank you. This concludes Ken Holland's media availability.